Hi, I'm Jim Wexler, President of Experiences Unlimited and Chair of the Enterprise Gamification Forum. We held the first Enterprise Gamification Forum earlier this year, and I'm going to share with you the keynote speech I made that day. I was invited to address an audience of commercial printers earlier this year, which is a daunting task because they're dinosaurs. They're flogging a 600-year-old technology and medium and have lost half of their revenue over the last 20 years as a result. So I started by trying to give them some encouragement and sharing with them a statistic about how long it took a communications technology to be adopted. From Gutenberg's time, it took 100 years for print to reach 50 million users. And as you can see, over time, communications technologies have increasingly been adopted at a far greater rate. So I tried to give them some encouragement by telling them that the Facebook guy is a dinosaur too, and that the audience of gamification experts and thought leaders that the gamification guy is also a dinosaur. Disrupting the future is the definition of innovation, but it's only disruptive to businesses who lack the ability to be adaptable. As an example, we are on the cusp of a complete overhaul of the way in which we interact with online content. And I think we should all be a lot more excited about it than we currently are. The future may hold a time in which content is no longer entrenched in websites, but floats in orbit around users. If you think of applications like Instapaper, which are transforming our relationship with content and are going to force us to rethink existing reputation, distribution, and monetization models. And if and when content is freed and given to users to control, it'll be games and game systems and game interfaces that they will choose as their way of experiencing. Recently, Helmut Esslinger made a speech, he of Frog Design, who was so instrumental in the initial design and launch of Apple. And he was talking about how Apple had lost its way and how a new company could arise to disrupt Apple. And when asked how, he referred to his students in China and Germany and the United States and how they are completely involved with and mesmerized by three-dimensional interfaces. He believes that enterprise software should be and is going to be like a video game. Every day at workplaces across the nation, almost half of employees play games on their mobile phones at work, and a good portion of them do it a lot. It's no surprise that that survey showed that almost 2/3 of them want their interaction with brands to be more fun and more playful, and that a good portion of them want to receive new brand information from online games, almost as many as want to receive it from more traditional forms like email. Why has gaming grown from virtually nothing to one of the world's most popular platforms? A field that may well become the predominant art form of the 21st century, just as film was in the 20th and perhaps the novel was in the 19th? You have to go back to caveman days for the answer. All the way back then, there was a reward for mastering challenges, a reward for learning. When caveman discovered fire or speared a bison, he was physically rewarded by a secretion of dopamine in his brain. For mastering challenges, for using play to learn, we are physically rewarded. And when you hook up a gamer to a brain scan machine today, when they master challenges in the game environment, dopamine flows. Whether it's a real or artificial environment, we are physically rewarded for learning. When you watch a kid with a new video game, they never read the instructions. Instead, they start hitting buttons to see what happens. It's a fundamentally different take on problem solving from the linear, read the manual first approach of their parents. For kids, it's like breathing. It's second nature to participate in these interfaces. And as they navigate the possibilities by their choices and their actions, every path is unique. Games enable them to create their own world through play. So today we'll look at how games are made and what games are made of and how soon games will make simple models of us, the players. They'll learn what we like to do, what we're good at, what interests and challenges us. They'll observe us and record the decisions we make. Games will consider how we solve problems and evaluate how skilled we are in various circumstances. And as games modify themselves to better fit each individual and adjust their difficulty on the fly and bring in new content and create new storylines, more than ever, games are becoming a visible external amplification of the human imagination. Gaming is not inherently a storytelling medium. It's not a flaw. It's not inferior to, say, film merely because movies are better at storytelling. A story is linear. It's a controlled experience. The author chooses precisely the events in a certain order to create a story with maximum impact. A game is non-linear. Games must provide at least the illusion of free will to the player. Players must feel they have freedom of action, options within the structure of the game. If not, they are not engaged. At the conference, we shared ideas. We ran them past each other. We were playing with the ideas. That's not a game. A game is a particular structured form of play, just as a novel is a particular structured form of storytelling. Play is how we learn. Stories are how we teach each other the things we've learned ourselves through play. But play comes first. In Monopoly, it's the thimble. In a role-playing game, it's your avatar. Game tokens give a player a sense that he controls his own destiny in the game environment. Avatar itself comes from the Sanskrit meaning he crosses over. It was the incarnation of Vishnu, the blue god in human form, who crossed over to another world. A pilot friend told me that by now, every single pilot in America has taken off from LaGuardia, suffered a double bird strike, and landed successfully in the Hudson. They've done this, of course, on flight simulators, highly programmable game machines. And if you can program anything, why not program the hero journey? The amazing thing for Captain Schellenberger is that he made the decisions he did about landing in the Hudson in just a couple of seconds, calling on all of his knowledge from a lifetime of flying to choose right. And most of the experiences that he called upon were those he received in simulators, not in real life. It is the color and detail in simulations that are essential to invest the player, to have them have a feeling in their mind that there is evidence of another world there. The sims that we create for corporate learning create authentic, relevant environments for risk-free practice and skill set development through learning by doing. Why are simulations so effective? Well, there's a problem with reality, and that is that these experiences take place over such a long period of time. In simulation, we can capture the best practices, behaviors, and skills required and put them into a tightly drawn environment and deliver, perhaps in a couple of hours, something that might take months to experience. The other great part of games and simulations is putting someone into a state of flow. That's when you're putting them into the zone where the dopamine is flowing. The example would be a basketball game between yourself and a professional. For you, you'd be so anxious and challenged that it wouldn't be fun. For the professional, it would be so easy and unchallenging that for them too it would not be a good experience. But that balance keeps the dopamine flowing. So do we harness game mechanics and gamify everything? Some gamification vendors suggest it's a kind of MSG that you sprinkle on any interface to make it more fun, motivating, and engaging. But most gamified applications are glorified report cards that turn games into work rather than life into play. They make users into pawns rather than players. Most gamification vendors use points and levels and badges. Reward systems, really. But extrinsic rewards are not a motivating factor in gameplay and never have been. If they were, then this would be the most fun game ever because of its ability to deliver 1 trillion points at every button click. The experience of being competent, of achieving something, is at the core of what makes any good game. The fun in games arises out of mastery. Fun is in fact just another word for learning. And to be effective, gamified applications must provide something that is already meaningful to the user. Game elements are like an amplifier. There has to be genuine sound first for the amplifier to do any good. To make something fun requires the hard work of game design, iterating, prototyping, play balancing, play testing, all preferably performed by real game designers, not loyalty practitioners, game makers. Perhaps we can move towards the idea of enterprise game thinking instead of gamification. Games, as we know, deliver play strictly to entertain and be fun. Gameful design brings a sense of playfulness to user experience when there is no game. This recent video for Cablevision took the dry and engineering-driven content of what is cable and made it joyful and delightful for the participants. But what about serious games and game-based learning and gamified apps? For years, we've created complex learning environments that deliver business process and glean assessment data and deliver customized virtual coaching in multiplayer environments with realistic avatars. The meaningfulness of process for performance improvement or behavior change is built into these, but usually they're not fun. What tends to be missing is the play. By definition, experiences and gamified apps that are mandated are not play. If you're forced to do something, it ceases to be play. So, gamified apps and game-based learning have to try harder to deliver play than straightforward, unserious entertainment. A recent game-based communication strategy that takes these principles to heart is Elixir of Life. The assignment was to use gamification to change behavior as it relates to wellness among employees at top companies. But it was essential to avoid another program that tried to get people to do their exercise or eat their vegetables, because these Fortune 100 companies have terrific fitness centers and nutritionally driven cafeterias that the employees aren't using. The strategy combines a sim social game design with the appointment gaming appeal of programs like Farmville. And our storyline starts on a quest for ingredients to find the secret of eternal youth. You've been hired by the Elixir League that wants you to go and find these ingredients, but they're actually giving you the job of time traveler to go back and forth through time itself to hunt for the rare ingredients in your very own time portal. You go all the way back to the Renaissance in Florence, Italy, to New York at the height of the Industrial Revolution, and back to modern-day San Francisco. The journey is populated with addictive mini-games that you can play for minutes and more complex time echo puzzles that might engage you for hours. Underneath it all, time is the driver, the mechanism and metric for gameplay. You earn time through exhibiting key behaviors and skills, and you can share time with friends and coworkers. Ultimately, you travel to the future, where the Elixir League wants to download not the rare herbs and ingredients that you gathered, but the human experiences that you had along the way. Because like life, the game improves by two things only: getting more time on the clock and making every minute count. Any discussion of networked gameplay requires a review of the cultural implications of social networks themselves. Facebook actually automates a timeless desire for attention. Users are committed to self-exposure, and what's hard at work is our innate narcissism gene, which drives us all to preen, to attract, with the goal of maximizing our gene pool's reach. But with social networks, the world is shrinking. It's a connection by 6 degrees that is totally proven. Social links that would have died out in the past are kept alive and can be easily activated. I call it the Pauly Rittinger experience. When I was egged into joining Facebook a few years ago, almost as soon as I said yes and hit enter, there was Pauly Rittinger. "Jim, how you been? How's it going? What's going on? How you doing?" And I, in response, wrote him a very heartfelt note that told him where I'd been for all those years and how good it was to connect. I never heard back from him, because for him, it was an exercise in friend procurement. Facebook and sites like it promote a form of frantic friend procurement, a way of maintaining a friendship without having to make any effort whatsoever. But public friendship is an oxymoron. The impulse to collect as many friends as possible is not an expression of the human need for companionship, but of a different need, that for status. What are the implications of the narcissistic tendencies of social networks? Well, surveys show that heavy users feel less socially involved with their community and tend to be trending towards giving up face-to-face for virtual contact. What might result is valuing less the capacity for genuine connection. Social networks edge us towards relationships based on our data points, and the twist is we don't mind. We trust the data because we actually are the sum of our data points. Assessment instruments work. They're incredibly effective as an underpinning to the simulations that we create because they effectively sort out personality types. It is very likely that our children will apply to college and seek jobs embracing the accuracy of their readouts. They'll seek and accept a match based on careful assessment of who they are. The data tells a story, a statistically reliable readout of who we are. Your life insurer gets as reliable a read from your data points as they do from a blood test. The talent sims that we create for corporate clients, 3D worlds that teach business skills, are based on cognitive profiles that simultaneously refine an assessment of participant capabilities while connecting them emotionally with the experience and the results. It's ironic how irate people are over airport body scans while mostly oblivious to being utterly exposed from a personal information perspective. Big Brother is watching, as we know from the NSA, and he's mapping. And while social networkers are often naive about the information they're making publicly available, younger citizens these days just shrug at the inevitable hegemony of big data. The author Dave Eggers recently wrote The Circle, a book that might change how the world views its addicted, compliant thrall with all things digital. Set in the near future, the story of an all-powerful Silicon Valley company called The Circle, which is a spiritual and business heir to our times, a sort of a mashup of Google, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and PayPal all in one, that evangelizes the sharing of personal information for the greater good. Here's a snippet of dialogue from May, the new hire, and the company founder, Eamon Bailey. May says, "I understand that we're obligated as humans to share what we see and know, and that all knowledge must be democratically accessible. It's the natural state of information to be free." Right. We all have a right to know everything we can. We all collectively own the accumulated knowledge of the world. Right, May says. So what happens if I deprive anyone or everyone of something I know? Aren't I stealing from my fellow humans? Indeed, Bailey said, nodding earnestly. Privacy is theft. One reason the 3D world's second life faded was its timing, which coincided with the all-new opportunity that social networks offered to put real-life data points out there. People want the real thing, their friends, their life, networked. Rather than Linden dollars, they want their dollars. But Facebook's HTML interface is limiting. It is inevitable that people will tire of the restraints and that the door will open for 3D environments into social networks. And when they do, artificial intelligence, AI, will play a role. Artificial intelligence is the next needed step in creating a realistic game experience. Video game AI goes way back. Those cute little critters that chase Pac-Man are the grandfathers of game AI, and 30 years later, the quality of artificial intelligence in games is still in its infancy. In Pac-Man, the game gets harder as players try to progress. No matter how well you play, the computer is always able to catch up. It's really not fair. New AI adapts to player movement and behavior. Non-player characters, or NPCs, react to player actions and have memory of previous actions implemented by the player and can anticipate player decisions. The goal of AI is to be adaptive enough to actually make you believe in the experience. These days, state-of-the-art technologies incorporate emotional depth and realistic AI behavior for NPCs. The breakthrough will be the social element, getting the avatar to interact with others gracefully and realistically. A recent MIT study found that people respond better to an avatar whose face is composed of features of their own face. Another study has proven that users' perception of trustworthiness and friendliness increase when an avatar's head and eye movements match the social interactions of the conversation flow. In just a few years, avatars whose behavior is nearly imperceptible from humans will be available. Realistic game environments with avatars you can trust, who reflect and adapt to deeply aligned player data points to deliver emotionally resonant experiences. where no longer possible to tell the difference between what is real and its simulation, where we've lost all ability to make sense of the distinction between nature and artifice. By definition, these would be simulacra, copies of things that no longer have an original or never had one to begin with. Games may be a mirror of what is to be, a rewarding, engaging, emotionally connected, simulated life, which blurs the line between what we today consider the flesh and blood baseline for what is real and what our children may. And if so, all the gameplay and social network training wheels may prove vital. The line is blurred. Just this summer saw the first prototype robots capable of developing and expressing emotions. These robots have been created through modeling the early attachment process that human and chimpanzee infants undergo with a primary caregiver. The more they're given from the human caregiver, the stronger the bond developed and the amount learned. And the robots are capable of expressing anger, fear, sadness, happiness, and pride. The line is blurred. PlayStation, Xbox, Google Glass. These may be antecedents of the man-machine meld. They still lack the truer emotional and neural connection to actually simulate life. Ray Kurzweil envisions a time in the near future where the exponential increase in the rate of innovation of computer technology inevitably reaches a technology tipping point and allows us to transcend the limitations of our biological bodies, to fully map and upload our infinitely complex chemical computers, our brains, to machines, a direct interface between humans and machines, which he calls the singularity. And Kurzweil's recommendation? That we all take very good care of ourselves to survive our mortal trappings until that day, so we can participate and live forever. It's unfathomable, it's magic, but if Kurzweil's right, it will probably be game environments featuring emotionally connective, artificially intelligent avatars, dynamically attuned to data points that are maximized by assessment-driven best practices in human behavior gleaned from social networks that will make that life worth living. You may remember the story of the robot boy from Spielberg's AI. A toy maker crafts a robot boy designed to imprint his adoptive human mother, and propelled by his desire for love and acceptance, he wants to be a real boy. Kind of an advanced version of this summer's emotional robot. So flash forward 5,000 years when the robot boy's remains are recovered underwater by futuristic, technologically advanced critters who have it all, but have forgotten key elements of what it is to be human. Perhaps they're us in the singularity, immortal, but missing something. They read his data banks like the Dead Sea Scrolls and experience human emotion, and they are fulfilled. And as a reward for his gift to them, they conjure the robot boy's simulacrum, a perfect copy of the mother love he never received, so he can finally soothe his aching hard drive and rest in peace. Back here on Earth, the takeaway, I hope, is that play is how we learn. That games activate emotion driven by meaning and mastery. And that we need to work the data to deliver intelligent response that every day seems a little less artificial.